to actively engage in the sessions, share your experiences, and take full advantage of the expertise available. Together, we can forge stronger alliances, enhance our collective capabilities, and drive meaningful progress in the fight against gender-based violence. Thank you once again for your presence and commitment. Let us embark on this journey with determination and solidarity, knowing that our collective efforts will pave the way for a safer and more equitable future for all. Welcome, and let us make these 2 days count. Thank you so much. So IT, please, let's meet our speakers. Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to introduce our speakers. Let's meet our speakers. One of our speakers is Olajumoke Omisore, a passionate gender activist, global SDG advocate, transformational speaker, and mentor dedicated to empowering youth, women, and girls to achieve their full potential. With degrees in banking and finance and accountancy, and as an alumna of Yali Network and Youth Hub. She serves in various leadership roles, including state focal person of the association, Ekiti State Chapter, and Ekiti State Coordinator for the Coalition of Civic Education. She is also a fiscal transparency champion and certified fact checker by the Center for Democracy and Development. As the executive director of the Foundation for Excellent Living and Development, she leads initiatives to connect victims and survivors of gender-based violence with comprehensive services, promoting a just society free from gender-based violence. Her expertise spans gender equality, leadership for youth and women advocacy, inclusive education, and resource mobilization. Olajumoke has designed and facilitated numerous training programs such as gender equality and leadership for youth in Ekiti State, empowerment and mentorship for women and adolescent girls in the Southwest, and community engagement and advocacy for social change. Our interactive and inclusive training programs have empowered countless individuals to become change makers in their community. Next speaker is Dr. Stephen Folorunsho, a clinical psychologist with extensive experience in patient assessment, counseling, and behavior modifications. He currently serves as a clinical psychologist and practice manager at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, where he supervises therapists, manages business portfolios, conducts assessments, and provides psychotherapy. He has previously worked at Quiet Place and the Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry, offering support for various mental health issues. He holds a master's in clinical psychology from the University of Ibadan and a bachelor's in psychology from Adekunle Ajasi University. He has published multiple journal articles and attended several training programs, so proficient in both English and Yoruba, and his interests include research, teaching, traveling, and stage acting. Next is Dr. F. Anage Esquire, President in Rose Foundation and Warren Rose Academy. He's a distinguished humanitarian, gender rights activist, and anti-corruption expert with over 35 years of experience. She is renowned for her expertise in gender-based violence, prevention, human rights advocacy, anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, human capital development, grassroots community development, and media and public relations. Dr. Anage has collaborated with international organizations such as the United Nations, ECOWAS, and NACTIP, and currently serves as the acting regional chair and regional manager of AML CFT Civil Society Organization Forum, West Africa, as well as chair of AML CFT Civil Society Forum, Nigeria. Her work through the Warren Rose Foundation and Warren Rose Academy has empowered countless women and girls, earning her recognition and numerous awards for her humanitarian efforts. Next, we'll be introducing is Emanuela David Ete, an intersectional, inclusive feminist and human rights advocate in Nigeria, with a degree in archivist and information science from the University of Ibadan, and currently pursuing another in sexuality and gender. She is also a certified psychosocial counselor and therapist. Emanuela has dedicated 13 years to addressing gender-based violence, sexual harassment, human rights violations, and mental health issues, focusing on at-risk and minority persons in Nigeria and West Africa. She's also recognized on the Leading Ladies Africa LLA list 2022 as one of Nigeria's most inspiring women. Emanuela is a champion of the South to South Learning Network. She has collaborated with organizations such as NACA, UNDP, NHRC, and UNAIDS, advocating for human rights, gender-based violence prevention, and holistic health care through positive narratives and inclusive feminist approaches. Here are our speakers, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll do well to kickstart this technical session. And who will be coming on board is Dr. N.O. Folorunsho, who will be talking to us on psychosocial support and mental health of sexual exploitation and abuse survivors. Is Dr. Folorunsho online, please?
Good afternoon, ma.
Please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Each speaker has 20 minutes for each presentation. So, sir, you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. My name is Stephen Folorunsho. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I will be presenting psychosocial support and mental health for sexually exploited and abused survivors. Okay, so today's training, we'll be looking at understanding how to provide psychosocial support and mental health service to SEA survivors, and we're also training on trauma-informed care and counseling techniques. So that's the training objective for today. So as a form of introduction, let us remind ourselves of what sexual exploitation and sexual abuse actually is for teaching purpose. So when we talk about sexual exploitation, it actually has to do with the actual or attempted abuse of a position of vulnerability, power, or trust for sexual purposes, including but not limited to profiting monetarily, socially, or politically from sexual exploitation of another. And when we come to sexual abuse, it actually is the actual or threatened physical intrusion of a sexual nature, whether by force or under unequal or coercive condition. So examples of sexual exploitation or sexual abuse could actually involve sex trafficking, sexual harassment, sexual abuse in form of maybe rape, in form of harassing someone physically, emotionally, or even sexually. So we are looking at psychosocial support. It will be very important that we understand what is psychosocial support. So because we don't, so that we understand what we are doing and we don't do the wrong thing when we are faced with survivors. So the term psychosocial actually implies a very close relationship between psychological and social factors. So when we are offering psychosocial support, we need to understand that we are looking at psychological factors and social factors that could assist the individual to overcome or to deal with the challenge that they are going through. So psychosocial support is the support that focuses on helping individuals, such as SEA survivors, heal from trauma and mental health problems, and at the same time, support them in coping with life events, life circumstances to enable them to fulfill their social needs. And this is because people who have gone through this traumatic experience actually need support. And we as individuals, as professionals, we have a role to play in providing this support to them. And this is because there are consequences of sexual exploitations and abuse. And these consequences can be life-threatening, can be so devastating that could affect the mental health, the general well-being of an individual or any victim. So I categorize the consequence into three major consequences, such as the physical consequence. For example, trembling, headaches, feeling very tired, not being able to eat, drink, or not being able to sleep. And most of these physical consequences are the consequence that we see immediately after an abuse. They are immediate effects. You are easy to point out. They are the pointers that make you to know that it seems this person has gone through a sexual abuse or has been exploited sexually. And the psychological consequence also include anxiety disorder, most especially post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, medically unexplained somatic complaints, alcohol and other substance use disorder, psychological distress, as well as suicidal ideation and harm. For most of these psychological consequences, they occur after the physical consequence. They might not be immediate in most cases. And also for the social consequences, it includes stigma, social exclusion, discrimination, rejection by family and community, and even further poverty due to the circumstances surrounding the abuse. So it's very important that we know what we are dealing with when we want to offer support to them. And we also need to take note of the role of individual differences. It's important. There's the role of individual differences when it comes to the consequence of sexual exploitation and abuse. Because how an individual reacts to sexual exploitation and abuse varies from persons, even from genders, on the following factor: age. The way a young child, the way an adolescent, the way a young adult and an old adult will react or will develop maybe a psychological distress, or we experience maybe trauma, differs based on the age. Also, the nature and context of the abuse could affect how the individual also reacts, could affect this consequence. And the level of abuse, the level of social stigma or acceptance of that abuse or exploitation. Also, if there is a safe environment to recover. And lastly, if there is a risk of pregnancy or contracting an STI or having HIV or AIDS. So we need to consider these individual differences that exist, and this can actually affect the responses of survivors. So what is the importance of psychosocial support to survivors? Number one, it helps survivors feel safe. Psychosocial support, it helps them to feel safe because they've experienced something that is traumatic, they felt unsafe. So one of the first interventions should be channeled towards safety, to ensure that they are safe, to provide physical and emotional comfort to survivors. Also, to help the survivor to meet immediate basic needs for food, water, shelter, and emergency medical attention, which is very important when it comes to sexual exploitation and sexual abuse because of various health consequences that could result. Also, providing repeated and simple and accurate information on how to get these basic needs met is very important because it assists them at their transition stage. And also, stabilizing survivors who are overwhelmed and disoriented. Because some individuals, part of the consequence might be disorganization, might be, they might have lost touch, or they are in a confused state. So part of the importance of psychosocial support is that it enables them to be stabilized. And also, listening to the survivor if she wishes to share her story or feelings without forcing her to talk. And this is very important. And I think this is where some individuals who are not professional get it wrong when offering psychosocial support. Oh, you want the individual to talk. You want the survivor to talk. You want the individual to narrate what has gone, what went wrong, what happened, the incident. However, forgetting that you don't do that. You allow the survivor to move at their pace, because when we force them to share their experience, what we are doing is that we are trying to re-traumatize them, which is very common when it comes to individuals who have been sexually exploited or abused, re-traumatizing them. So it's important that we allow them to be the one to share their story. And one of the ways we can actually do this is by leaving the door open, such as if you are talking with a survivor and you've not gotten the clear picture. The first thing you need to just know is that ensure that you provide a safe environment for the individual to ensure that, you know what, you are in a safe space now. If you feel comfortable to talk about what you've gone through, I am here for you. So it's not that, oh, tell me what has happened by force. No, let them actually have that feeling. So who can offer psychosocial support? We have both formal service providers and informal service providers. Under the formal service provider, we have the social workers, we have the health workers, community health workers, the NGOs, religious charities, women's group, and a child welfare group. And also for the informal source of support. And most times, the psychosocial support comes from this informal source of support, such as the friends of the victims, family members of the victims, peers, community leaders, traditional healers, and religious leaders. So from this, we can see that everyone can actually offer psychosocial support. However, there has to be a quality, at least a minimum standard, for anyone who wants to offer psychosocial support. And such individuals must have these qualities. Number one, you must be knowledgeable. For example, if you are dealing with survivor of sexual exploitation and abuse, you must be knowledgeable about sexual exploitation, sexual abuse. Number two, you must be respectful. You must be respectful. Number three, you must be helpful and supportive. Also, you must show compassion. You must be compassionate towards the survivors. And you must be accepting. There must not be any form of discrimination at all. You must be accepting. And you must be a good listener. Because what you want to do is you want to listen, you want to give them audience, you want to show them that, oh, you know what, I'm here for you. I can actually I might not know what you are going through, I might not but I can imagine. So it's important that you are a good listener and not just be the one doing the talking. And also be sensitive, especially when you are working with children and adolescents. You need to be very sensitive, more sensitive, because at that age they are very vulnerable. Some might not even know how to communicate. So you need to actually be very sensitive, know when there's what we call selective mutism. When you find maybe some of your survivors refusing to talk, you know how to be sensitive to know, oh, maybe there's somebody in the room who they don't feel comfortable talking in the presence. So you need to be very sensitive. And you need to be reliable. That is, you are trustworthy. Be patient and honest. Be trustworthy, non-judgmental. And you need to also be emphatic. That is, you show that you are with them. You need to show empathy. You need to show there's difference between sympathy and empathy. So empathy is empathy is that I can feel your pain. Then you need to be calm. And most importantly, one of the most important good quality is that you need to know how to solve problems, because the individual you are trying to assist has come or presented with one or two problems. Then you need to know how to be able to solve problems. So one of the most effective psychosocial supports you could offer to see victims or survivor is what is called psychological first aid. Psychological first aid. And what are you doing when it comes to psychological first aid? First, you want to show that you believe what the survivor is saying. Maybe after an abuse, or after you are just the first contact with the victim, with the survivor, you want to show that, oh, I believe what you are saying. Because one of the things they are looking out for is that they are looking out for, oh, will this person trust me? Also, you need to acknowledge the survivor's feelings and tell her that her emotional reactions are normal. Because at that point, they are in a confused state. They don't know whether they are normal or whether they are okay or they are not okay. So they need that assuring us to say, oh, you know what? Oh, you are feeling sad. You are angry. You are feeling irritable. Yes, it's a normal emotion you're actually experiencing because of the traumatic incident you experienced. So you need to acknowledge their feelings. Also, you need to give information and help survivors make their own decision on what is best for them, not what you think is best for them. So because you need to assist them, you need to give them information. Oh, this is where you can get help. Maybe you are working in an NGO, someone is coming to you and a survivor is coming to you. You need to give them information, various help that is available for them. Let them be the one to lead the discussion of, okay, I think this is the best and best way you can actually help me. Also, you need to make sure that the survivor is not at immediate risk for further harm, which is very important. However, we also need to take cognizance of confidentiality, also take cognizance of asking for consent at this stage. Also, help the victim to meet immediate basic needs for food, water, shelter, emergency medical attention. Listen to the survivor if she wishes to share her story or feelings without forcing her to talk, even at psychological first stage. Your role is to listen without forcing her to talk, so as to prevent re-traumatization. And you need to be friendly and compassionate to them. And also offer accurate information about the effects of sexual exploitation, abuse, and reassure her that what she's feeling is normal. Because at that point, one of the most significant feelings they are feeling is that, oh, I'm not normal, I'm not okay. Self-blame, self-pity, guilt, shame. Those are the emotions that they are feeling. So you need to try to make them to see that, oh, you know what you are going through, the emotion you are feeling is a normal emotion, so as to prevent complications such as suicide. Also, you need to help the victim to identify who in her family or social network that could help her and give her support. Also, you need to help the survivor prioritize problems and make decisions to solve them. So now let's look at trauma-informed care. So when we talk about trauma-informed care, what is trauma-informed care? What is the basis for trauma-informed care? Trauma-informed care is a strength-based framework that is grounded in an understanding of and responsiveness of the impact of trauma. That is, anyone who wants to work with trauma victims or survivors, you need to have a good understanding and how to respond to the impact of trauma. Number two, it emphasizes physical, psychological, and emotional safety for both providers and survivors. I want us to take note of providers and survivors. And lastly, it creates an opportunity for survivors to rebuild a sense of control and empowerment. So trauma, as we all know, occurs after an event or series of events that can affect an individual physically or emotionally. And traumatic events can happen at any age. At any age. You should not think it's age specific. No, it can happen at any age and may affect an individual's daily life and cause long-lasting harm to the individual physical and mental health and their well-being. So traumatic events may be experienced by an individual, a generation, or an entire community or culture. However, trauma recovery and healing is possible through appropriate and adequate support at the individual, family, and community level. So what is the impact of trauma on individuals? The impact of trauma could be in form of emotional, so it could be in form of behavioral, and also physical as well as cognitive. Cognitive in the sense that it could impair their short-term memory, it could decrease focus or concentration, feeling ashamed or experiencing flashback or re-experiencing of the event. So there are different types of trauma. There's acute trauma, there's chronic trauma, there's complex trauma. And there's also what is called the secondary traumatic stress. And this is for professionals who work with trauma survivors. That is, the experience of people who are exposed to other traumatic story. As a result of this exposure, people can develop their own traumatic symptoms and reaction, which takes us to the trauma-informed care. That is, as you are taking care, as you are exposed to the traumas of others, if you don't take care of your own mental health, you could also develop trauma. So counseling techniques using trauma-informed care include, you need to address individual needs because individuals are different. Also, you need to prioritize physical and emotional safety of your victim, of the survivors, and try as much as possible to meet their basic need. And strive to view difficult behavior through a trauma-informedness. And this trauma-informedness means you need to understand trauma reminders. That is, what are those things that actually remind these victims of the traumatic experience? And also, you need to prepare for transition. That is, for example, victims, people who are sexually abused. You need to prepare them for transition back into their normal life, back into maybe dating, back into integrating them back into the society. And you need to offer support, acceptance, and advocacy for the survivors. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen. We have learned so much in trauma-informed care and psychological first aid. For those in the medical field, we know about the physical first aid, but now we know about psychological first aid. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
So please, you'll stay on so that at the end of the day, we'll take all our questions and discussion. Thank you. So our next speaker coming on is Emanuela, Miss Emanuela David Ete. Is she online? She will be taking us on technology and PSEA.
Good evening.
Good evening, dear.
Yes. So
you have the floor.
Okay. So on today's, I'll be taking technology and PSEA, and in this training, would answer questions around share policies, who's to implement it, who's to execute it. We'll answer a lot of questions around who should be within the civil society movement, etc., and technology as well. So what is PSEA? It's simply defined as protection/prevention from sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment. And these 2 days trainings is going to address all of those issues. But before we understand what PSEA is, let us understand what SHARE is: sexual harassment, exploitation, and abuse. Now, sexual harassment means unwelcome, intrusive, repetitive sexual jokes, gestures, sexual blackmail, etc. that we experience, at our places of work, social circles, and all not. So what's exploitation? According to the UN's definition, it can also be seen as an actual or attempted abuse of a position of vulnerability, power, or trust for sexual purposes, included but not limited to profiting monetarily, socially, or politically from the sexual exploitation of another. That is the UN's definition. Slavery, work, or sexual service with no retribution, involving a person taking advantage of their victim's vulnerability or dependent states, including addictions to drug or alcohol. So, most times we see this play out, when some persons are in a position of power, and then they use that opportunity to exploit, the other persons, Then what is abuse? An actual or threatened physical intrusion of a sexual nature, whether by force or under unequal or coercive conditions. It includes violence on minors and sexual and gender diversities, pedophilia, ephobophilia, hebophilia, incest, intimate partner violence, and in brackets, mental violence, physical violence, and otherwise, systematic insults or humiliations of a dependent, etc. Now, let me hold there. Let me give an example. So I think last week or last 2 weeks, a video came to my table in which a gay man was beaten to pulp, and he was kicked into the into the gutters. And when I looked at it, what entered my head was that a lot of people think that sexual abuse just means rape. This is sexual abuse. You're insulting someone or you're causing harm on someone based on their sexual orientation. Most persons don't really understand, that sexual abuse can be so broad. We have taken it to the social, circles. When we bring it to the medical aspect, there was something that happened to me, some weeks ago, and it came to my table about an intersex child. And when the parents of this child came to me, the mom, the husband, and then the child had undergone series of surgeries, corrective surgeries, while as a child. So the doctors did not allow that child to grow up before determining which gender or sex they were going to belong. Now the child started having complications in urinating. The doctors conducted surgical enhancement on that child to be a boy because they saw testicles. Now when the child reached 14, the child started 13, 14, the child started experiencing menstruation. Now, the hole that they created started leaking. They had to take the child to the hospital again, and you can see so many operations on that child. And when this child came to me, when the parents came to me, they did a scan. They saw, okay, the child has ovaries and uterus. Outside, there's a testicle and a micro penis. I had to tell them that, look, this is a sexual abuse. You don't do this. You allow the child to grow. Coincidentally, after thorough counseling, the child had to now accept themselves. The parents had to be open-minded. That moving forward, they have to allow the child to go through puberty. Who knows what is going to happen? That's another example of sexual abuse from the medical aspect. Then sexual harassment, exploitation and abuse have a lot in common and also includes sexual relations with a child in any context defined as a human being below the ages of 18 years. It should be noted that SEA, that is sexual exploitation, harassment and abuse, and gender-based violence are closely related, but different areas of work, particularly within the development and humanitarian sector. Civil society organizations, donors, government, international financial institutions, and other organizations may all have different definition of sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment, and gender-based violence, and that's inclusive of our association. The need for a protection/prevention against sexual harassment cannot be overemphasized, as we can see that in our past, present, and upcoming speakers. This is to show the seriousness of such topics, and as parents, aid workers, business owners, youths, etc., this should be taken seriously. I also believe moving forward, we would be able to create applications to tackle SEA existing in remote areas of Nigeria, and that the association will be one of the leading networks in Nigeria, spearheading the campaign against SEA. Now, our next topic, using technology to enhance protection against sexual exploitation and abuse. We are in an information age that enables us to have access to information through the aid of technology at our fingertips. While we amplify the need to prevent/protect from sexual exploitation, it's incumbent upon us to understand that with the rise of diverse technology, so is the tactics of sexual predators to perpetuate their evil against vulnerable persons, which includes women, children, LGBTQ individuals, people with disabilities, and people who use drugs, and hence the need for thorough scrutiny of everyone, both at the personal level, organizational level, country level, and even within these vulnerable groups. The creation of applications or avenues for prevention from sexual exploitation also should trickle down to every organization, business, individual, and be upheld within every individual. Some countries willing to clamp down on sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment take extra steps by creating applications using our today's available technologies. Examples of such countries include Myanmar, which has a SAMOA application strictly for their citizens. So you can download it, but the moment you try to access it, you can't access it. It starts asking you for a location you're living within that area. So it's specifically for them. We have Lebanon. Lebanon has an app which takes it closer to the community. That is the aid worker. Then we have the PSEA SARA. That is self-awareness raising app, which takes it also closer. It also teaches. And this came around the time of COVID, when people were in their homes and then had little access to technology. So it made it very easy, you know, for people to learn and know what sexual harassment is. Then we have for Nigeria, the RSH mobile application. Now, it's very downloadable, and then it's one of the reporting tools. You can report sexual harassment and all this violence, you know, you can report it. Just download it on your phones and then you get access to it. Then in some apps or in some websites, you know, while they have a comprehensive sexual harassment policy, there's also a place where you can report sexual harassment. What do I mean? So in every organization, a creation of a comprehensive sexual exploitation and harassment policy should be readily available, soft copies and hard copies, and everyone should have access to it. It's not for the orgas at the top. It's meant to be for everyone, so that everyone knows their boundaries, everyone knows how to joke, everyone knows what sexual harassment is, what sexual abuse is. And then within these offices and organizations or businesses, there should be a complaint intake and referral tool, so that anybody, victims and survivors, can easily contact you and report such incidents. I saw an example from an organization. I don't want to call the name of the organization. I went through their sexual harassment policy. Then I saw their reporting tool. I was impressed, but I was not so impressed, because there was a place that still sort of victimized the victim. The place was where if you call out a sexual harassment and it happens to be false, you'll be given a first warning. If you call it out again and it happens to be false, they give you a suspension for 3 months. If you call it out again and it happens to be false, they give you 6 months suspension without pay. And then if you call it again, the fourth one, you are fired. And when I looked at it, I was very sad about that aspect, because we know that most persons that commit this it sort of stifles the voices of persons. You know, there can be ways we can go around such, you know, complaints and such things. So these are the questions that we hope to answer. I believe we should have answered. I've answered 1, 2. How many of us have a shared policy that aids in prevention against sexual exploitation and abuse at the organization and business level? That's left to you to answer. And how many people can implement this? Who can execute this? How many parents / caregivers, guardians have a comprehensive knowledge on sex education and know what sexual abuse is, let alone prevention of it? You know why I put comprehensive knowledge of sex education? There are cases where probably same-sex rape exists. The former speaker said you should be knowledgeable. You should be knowledgeable about these things, so that if someone comes to you to talk of these issues, you can understand that, look, this is not same-sex, this is rape. You can call it out. You can be knowledgeable to understand what it is. A child comes to you, complains about somebody, you know that this is pedophilia. This is an issue. But you have to be knowledgeable around sex education. Should we all have a shared policy or a policy on this? Why should we be encouraged to create a friendly prevention, sexual exploitation and abuse and harassment app? I just made an example of a policy I stumbled across on the internet. And when I went through their the reporting tool, it was impressive. But when I went to that side of the person reporting, it was scary because it discourages, you know, others, and it encourages more abuse. Should a pedophile, if it will be philia or pedophile, be an aid worker? Understanding that the vulnerable groups also include children, which could also include precocious puberty. Who are those that are, who are youths that are, or children that have precocious puberty? These are children that you see them at the age of 5, 6, they're already developing breasts and looking all those signs of puberty. They're already showing that. So it's a sexual relationship between a leader and a subordinate with consent, termed as sexual harassment, abuse, and exploitation. Has technology caused so much evil in relation to share? How to spell this out? I'm going to answer some here. Then as we go further, we'll see them. Let me give an example. A teenager was put under the care of a teacher from school hours to take extra lessons. Over the course of time, the parents found out that the teacher and the teenager were always sexually touching themselves with the consent of the child, according to the teacher and the child was always looking mature. The parents went on a hunt against the teacher, making the teacher flee the territory. This teacher found their way into the civil society system and established an NGO. Is there a case of share in the story above? The answer is yes, because there is actually no true consent once there's power or authority disparity, irrespective of the age difference. The teacher should have realized that the parents entrusted her with a child, even if the child made advances. Should the teacher be allowed into the civil society space to be at the managerial position as an executive director? Yes or no? The answer is no. The teacher should not be allowed. Good. Should we all have a readily accessible share policy? Yes. This inculcates discipline and creates awareness on preventing sexual abuse, harassment, exploitation within the workspace and social circle, thereby curbing incidents on share. Also, Nigeria signed the UN Strategy for Protection from Sexual Exploitation, Abuse, and Harassment. Has technology caused so much evil in relation to share? Yes or no? The answer is no. Technology has the capacity for both good and bad. It's left to the user to determine which. Invariably, technology isn't evil. It's how we interact with it. Example, smartphones are not bad. What is bad or who is bad / evil is the person behind / the owner of the smartphone. Someone who is browsing history and cache that reveals lots of child pornography tells us who that person is, a pedophile. Technology has only revealed the evil or the good intentions of the person. Through technology, the issue of bullying in boarding houses became amplified in Nigeria, which created a need for interventions with the same technology and which was used to disseminate. The list is endless. Another, technology addiction. Look at it like the intake of too much sugar and or salt, and the side effect kicks in after a long period of use. Likewise, technology addiction is the excess amount of time anyone spends on their phones, computers, and other devices, including the visitation of electronic sites. Side effects leads to eye strain, sleep deprivation, increased stress level, and even increased relationship stress by creating unrealistic sexual expectations from partners, excessive watching of porn, and then somehow we don't know the background stories of these issues. In conclusion, it's the responsibility of everyone, irrespective of our beliefs, sex, gender, to recognize, share, and protect vulnerable persons. This means you must be accountable first to yourself before you can be accountable to others. Change starts with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause. Stopping our record time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Technology and PSEA. A lot she has brought to bear. We see that technology is not good, it's not bad. It all depends on the owner. or the person behind the device. Thank you so much, Ms. Emanuela. You have really opened our eyes to certain issues. And we have certain questions to ask ourselves in our organizations. Do we have the share policy in our organizations, in our businesses? Please, if we don't, this is a time to have that available. Avail yourself of sex education, have a comprehensive knowledge of sex education and trainings. And right about now, we'll go to our next speaker. I hope we're enjoying our sessions already. We have none other than Dr. Efe Enwage Esquire. In fact, she's one lady I admire so much. We even had invited her in our last PSEA training for those who have been following us. And I hope we'll enjoy our next presentation. And being that we just finished on technology and PSEA, she will be talking to us on human resource management and PSEA.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, House, and good afternoon. I'm going to make it as succinct as possible. So very quickly, I'm going to be talking on human resource management and prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse. And we'll call it PC for now, which is prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse. Of course, so whenever I say PC, you know exactly what I'm referring to. And when I say HRM, you know I'm referring to human resource management. Now, what we say is a definition really of human resource management. What does it involve? Well, it involves planning, organizing, leading, and controlling an organization's workforce to achieve its goals and objectives. It is a vital function in organizations that focuses on effectively managing the workforce to achieve the organization's goals and objectives. Now, for planning, of course, you have to identify and determine the organization's human resource needs. For organizing, you allocate and structure human resources to achieve organizational goals. For leading, you direct and monitor employees to achieve their full potential. And for control, you monitor and evaluate employees, their performance, to ensure alignment with organizational objectives. Now, what will we say is the importance of HRM in preventing sexual exploitation and abuse? It plays a very crucial role in preventing C by creating a safe work environment, setting policies and procedures, ensuring accountability, and providing training and awareness programs. The importance of HRM in preventing sexual exploitation and abuse cannot be overrated. C is a serious violation of human rights, and it can have severe consequences for victims and for the organization and communities around it. So HRM plays a crucial role in preventing C. It creates a safe working environment by establishing a culture of respect, of inclusivity, and zero tolerance for C. And two, it sets policies and procedures, developing and implementing clear policies, procedures and codes of conduct that prohibit C. Ensuring accountability by holding employees and managers accountable for their actions and behavior. It provides training and awareness programs, educating employees on C, sexual exploitation and abuse, prevention, identification, and reporting. Now, effective HRM practices can help prevent C. That is only when it is effective. It can do this. It can help prevent C by conducting thorough background checks and screening processes. You have to do that. Implementing robust reporting mechanisms and whistleblower protection policies. Providing regular training and awareness programs for employees. Establishing clear consequences for C perpetrators, fostering an open door policy for reporting incidents and concerns, ensuring diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, monitoring and evaluating HRM practices to prevent C. So by prioritizing HRM practices, organizations can create a safe and respectful work environment, can prevent C, and promote a culture of accountability and transparency, recruitment and selection, ensuring thorough background checks, verifying previous employment, to ensure candidates are honest, or history of misconduct, to prevent hiring perpetrators. The last speaker was talking about somebody who left a space and left a place and went to set up an NGO. Now, the question is, are backgrounds of such people checked? Check for any criminal records or history of misconduct, to prevent hiring perpetrators. Using behavioral-based interview questions. You don't need to be a psychologist to do this. I'm just going to give 1 or 2 tips along these lines. Ask scenario-based questions. The last speaker used scenario-based questions, to answer some questions, to assess candidates' behavior and decision-making skills. Evaluate candidates' attitude towards C, including specific questions in the hiring process. Okay, so you need to ask direct questions about candidates' experience with C prevention. Assess candidates' willingness to report C incidents. Now, when you ensure thorough background checks, that's a crucial step in preventing C in organizations, sexual exploitation and abuse. By verifying this previous employment and education, I said, you contact previous employers and educational institutions to confirm candidates' credentials. I remember a big a big company, they are global. I was shocked when the HR told me that they hadn't verified the credentials of one of their top management staff. And then the company randomly decided to do that. And they found out that all his claims were false. So it's very, very important. Contact previous employers and educational institutions to confirm candidates' credentials. Verify job titles, dates of employment, and reasons for leaving. Why did you leave your former employment? Check for any gaps, in employment or education history. Very key. Now, checking for criminal records or history of misconduct goes beyond just asking a question. You need to conduct a criminal background check, including local and national databases. Somebody will say, how will you do that? Are we detectives? It's not too technical. Go to the person's former place of work. Yes, send someone there, to make inquiries. Search for any records of sexual offenses, harassment, or other forms of misconduct. In Nigeria here, the register for sexual offense, the sexual offense register is held by NAPTIP. So it's a government agency. It's free. You can walk in. It doesn't cost you a dime. You want to employ someone in an environment, you could check the sexual offenders register to be sure that you are not taking on somebody who has been convicted even. So searching for any records of any sort of sexual offenses, harassment, or other forms of misconduct is very key. Check with professional licensing boards or regulatory agencies for any disciplinary actions. Belongs as an accountant. Find out from the Chartered Institute of Accountants if he says he has ICANN or she has ICANN, whether anything like that has happened. These are things you need to do to make sure you safeguard not just your organization, but the people that work in your organization. Now, when I talk about using behavioral-based interview questions, you can create scenario-based questions. Present a hypothetical situation related to sexual exploitation and abuse, such as witnessing or experiencing harassment. What do you do if you witness that? Assess the candidate's decision-making skills, their attitude and behavior, in response to the scenario. You need to do that. How do you evaluate, for example, the candidate's attitude towards C? You ask questions about their understanding of C, its impact, and their role in prevention. What would you do if you were faced with this? How would you go about handling it? Assess their willingness to report incidents and support survivors, victims. But in this case, we'll use the word victim so it becomes very clear. So I will use the word victims. How do they go about it? Are they the type who will go, well, he's a top management staff, you know, I don't want to report the boss, I don't want to flag it, I don't want to say anything that will make it look like one is, you know, taking advantage? No. Including C specific questions in the hiring process. Ask direct questions about candidates' experience with C. Prevention, such as, have you received C training or awareness programs? I mean, have you ever been in one? How would you handle C if you were to experience or witness an incident, or even if you were to report it? Assess the candidate's willingness to report C incidents and their understanding of the organization's C policies. Using a panel interview approach, you can include multiple perspectives and reduce bias. You can train interviewers on C awareness, yeah, and behavioral-based interviewing and techniques. You can document all stages of the hiring process. Now, what I'm sharing with you is basically what you do with your panel, not with the person you are being interviewed or the person being interviewed. This has to do with who you pick, who you select in your establishment to be on the panel. So if you are going to use a panel-based interview approach, for example, like I said, you can train interviewers on C awareness first before they get to interview any candidate, and behavioral-based interviewing techniques. Document all stages of the hiring process so that you can watch it, you know. Maybe you missed something, but when it's documented and possibly videoed, you can actually decide based on that. If you're going to go ahead and hire that person, you know, normally the right thing to do is to inform the interviewee that he or she will be videoed. That is the right thing to do. You don't video people without their knowledge, and definitely, usually without it, you must video them with their consent. So it becomes very obvious. So whatever they are doing, well, you already have other ways of checkmating, so that you're not worried or you're not afraid that, well, this person will be playing to the gallery, telling me what I want to hear. It doesn't matter. You have other ways of checkmating that person. So document all stages of the hiring process. Include, of course, the background checks and interview notes. Ensure confidentiality and data protection throughout the hiring process. Ensure this, because you have to assure the person that whatever is being said here stays in this room. That's it. So by incorporating these measures, organizations can effectively screen candidates and reduce the risk of hiring perpetrators or those who may enable or tolerate C. It is very, very important. Now, for the training and awareness, which is where we are now, that's where the slide is on now. Provide training sessions on C prevention. Now, when you're doing that, it, of course, includes modules on C definition, types and consequences, discuss reporting mechanisms and whistleblower protection, creating awareness campaign for employees, use posters, flyers, and intranet articles to raise awareness, share survival stories and testimonials, incorporating C prevention into onboarding processes, include C prevention training in new hire orientation, provide C prevention resources and contact information. Now, providing regular training sessions on C prevention is crucial to educate employees on the importance of preventing sexual exploitation and abuse. Now, For the training, like I said, I did talk about models on C definition, types, and consequences. Define C and its various forms: sexual harassment, exploitation, abuse, etc. Discuss the consequences of C for victims, for the organizations and communities. Remember, this is a training you're giving to your staff. Discuss the consequences of C for victims, organizations, and communities. Reporting mechanisms and whistleblowing protection. What do you do? Explain the reporting process for C, incidents or concerns. You must have a protocol for that in your organization. Emphasize the importance of confidentiality and anonymity for whistleblowers. Because if I come to report, for example, and I realize that I am safe reporting, I can flag anything. And of course, the HR or anyone who is handling that in the organization, the boss, can decide to set a trap for that person. Yeah, you don't need to take the whistleblower's word for it. Obviously, it's going to be a continuous thing. It's most likely not going to be a one-off. So you're going to eventually catch that person. So explain the reporting process for C, incidents or concerns. Emphasize the importance of confidentiality and anonymity for whistleblowers. All right, so let's see if we can quickly go through the awareness campaign. I have talked about that. The new hire orientation, dedicated C prevention training sessions, include a comprehensive training session on C prevention, covering topics as definition and types of C. Now, for ongoing support, I'm just rushing through now so that I could finish up on some major points. Regular check-ins, yeah? You need to do regular check-ins. So schedule regular check-ins with new hires to discuss C prevention, address concerns, and provide support. C prevention refresher training. You trained 10 years ago. You have not had that training for 10 years. You need to do it a bit more often than 10 years. Maybe every year, once a year, or once in 2 years, you know, especially if you have new people in the house or, you know, in the office. Offer regular refresher training sessions to reinforce C prevention knowledge and practices. Anonymous feedback mechanisms. Establish this feedback mechanisms for new hires to report concerns or suggest improvements to C prevention efforts. All right. For policies and procedures. All right, so developing and implementing C-specific policies, define C and its types, outline reporting mechanisms and investigation procedures, establish consequences for perpetrators, because when there are consequences, it becomes what? A deterrent. Establish clear reporting mechanisms. Definitely designate C reporting officers. There has to be 1 or 2 in your establishment, depending on how big it is. Create a confidential reporting system. Ensure accountability and consequences for perpetrators. Conduct thorough investigations and impose disciplinary actions or terminate employment. Developing and implementing C-specific policies is crucial for preventing and addressing sexual exploitation and abuse in organizations. For the next, monitor and evaluation, regularly monitor for C incidents, track and analyze C reports, identify trends and patterns, identify trends and patterns, conducting thorough investigations, follow established investigation procedures, ensure fairness and impartiality, evaluating the effectiveness of C prevention measures. It requires conduct regular audits and assessment, gather feedback from employees and stakeholders. As you know, monitoring and evaluation is a critical component in all establishments, irrespective of what you do. It is also critical for preventing and addressing sexual exploitation and abuse in organizations. Offer access to professional counselors and mental health professionals who can provide emotional support, guidance, and therapy sessions. For medical assistance and referrals, provide access to medical care, including sexual assault, forensic exams, STI testing, and referrals to specialized medical services. Of course, for legal support and advice, Offer access to legal professionals who can provide guidance on legal options, procedures, and support throughout the legal process. In case, if the individual decides to take it a step further. Ensuring confidentiality and privacy requires you have to protect survivors' identity and their information. So keep all reports and records and information. So collaborating with local authorities and organizations, share best practices and resources, share knowledge, share expertise and resource with local authorities and organizations to enhance C prevention efforts and improve response mechanisms, enhance community engagement and outreach, collaborate with local organizations to reach marginalized communities, promote C prevention messages, and provide support services so that your organization stands out as an organization that has zero tolerance for that. Partner with C prevention experts, assess specialized training and expertise. You're on one here. Partner with experts, and there are many here who are experts, to assess specialized training, guidance, and support, on C prevention and response. Stay updated on latest C prevention strategies. Very important. Stay informed about the latest C prevention strategies, research, and best practices. And of course, adapt them to the organization's context. In other words, you localize, you domesticate them, to your own organization so that you are able, to, handle that. Of course, there's continuous improvement. Very, very important. Regularly reviewing and updating C prevention measures, assess effectiveness and identify gaps. Regular, when you do this on a regular basis, it's much more effective in preventing C, identifying those gaps and areas of improvement. Implement those changes and improvement. Don't just identify them, implement them. Implement the changes and improvements so that, to see prevention measures are based on purely these assessments, the feedback, and of course, the emerging best practices, And you have to implement these changes and improve on them. Very, very key. You can't just leave it at that. It is very important. So in conclusion, very quickly, HRM plays a vital role in preventing sexual exploitation and abuse. So HRM is essential in creating a safe and respectful work environment, promoting a culture of zero tolerance, and providing support services for survivors. By implementing these measures, organizations can create a safe and respectful work environment, implementing these measures, and it can help prevent C, promote a culture of respect, and provide support for survivors, support services for survivors of C. Continuous improvement and commitment to C prevention are essential. Continuous improvement and commitment are crucial to ensure the effectiveness of C prevention measures and to adapt to emerging changes and best practices. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, we have just heard from Dr. Efeanwage. Dr. Efeanwage Esquire, thank you so much for this presentation. I know we have learned a lot. Thank you, thank you. Please, if you have your questions, kindly put them on the chat box so that we can see them later on during our Q&A and discussions. So let's get our last speaker for the day. And she's none other than Ms. Olajumoke Omisore, the Ekiti State focal person for the association. Is she online, please? She will be taking us on intersectionality issues in addressing the SAMOA Bill. I know we have heard about that. I hope we'll have an interesting presentation.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. It's a wonderful it's a wonderful evening, everyone. My name is Olajumoke, as earlier used, and we'll be talking about intersectionality and the vulnerable groups, addressing the SAMOA Bill. And all right. Now, the objective of this training is to address the specific vulnerabilities and tailoring the prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse approaches to ensure inclusive protection and support. And then, first of all, what do we mean by intersectionality? Intersectionality, it's kind of confusing. So what do we understand by the word intersectionality? It was a term coined by an American civil rights activist, or let me say a civil rights advocate, and she's also a leading scholar of critical race theory, and her name is Kimberly Williams Crenshaw. Yeah. So it is the study of overlapping or intersecting social identities, social representation, social orientation, and related systems. And then the theory of intersectionality suggests that various biological, social, and cultural categories such as the gender, race, class, sexual orientation, as I earlier said, religion, age, ethnicity, nationality, and all of those, and all of that, yeah, their races, the class, gender identity, and all of it. So it also provides the definition. Crenshaw provided the following definition. No, intersectionality is a metaphor for understanding the ways that multiple forms of inequality or disadvantage sometimes compound themselves and create obstacles that often are not understood among conventional ways of thinking. So, what is now the SAMOA Bill? The SAMOA Bill has actually caused a lot of uproar, arguments, in the civic space, because some are in for it and some are against it. Now, the SAMOA Bill, or let me say the SAMOA Agreement, which was signed by December 23 between the European Union and the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, the OACPS, it aims to strengthen political, economic, and social ties among member states. It aims to strengthen political, economic, and social ties among member states. And then the key components of this agreement includes the promotion of human rights, democracy, and governance. And then it actually has 6 key priorities. I think we will get there very shortly. However, its implication for member countries with stringent laws against the LGBTQ rights, like Nigeria, have sparked considerable debate and controversy. I said it earlier that it has caused a lot of uproar among Nigerians. The fact that it has a vast, the majority of Nigerians are opposing the LGBTQ, and then some also accept it for some reasons, including religious and cultural biases. When any mention of LGBTQ, anytime you mention that, it causes rage and uproar, especially in Nigeria, because there is no known word for denoting homosexuality in Nigeria, prior to the Arab and European invasion. Is it Premium Times? One of our newspaper, I think that was in July 4. I've forgotten the specific newspaper. Which was that? I've forgotten right now. All right, it reported that the Nigerian government signed the SAMOA Agreement, and it endorses and promotes lesbianism, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. That's the LGBT rights in Nigeria. And then there was a time that they just signed this $150 billion SAMOA Agreement. And people were saying it does not contravene the Nigerian Constitution and other laws of the country. In fact, including same-sex marriage. Now, but it stated that it is a framework for all-round development of Nigeria. I laugh. Yeah, it's like but nevertheless, the House of Assembly, House of Rep, has resolved that the implementation of the agreement should be suspended because of the controversial issues it has. So, what are the key provisions of this SAMOA? What are the key provisions of the SAMOA Agreement? Now, before I go to the key provisions of the SAMOA Agreement, so this on this same SAMOA Agreement, I think some persons were able to bring out the gender perspective and gender equality, that and then universal access to sexual and reproductive health, among others, including the LGBTQ and sexuality education. That's section 42. I'm not a barrister. I hope to be like a barrister one day. Yeah, so 42 of the Nigerian Constitution stipulates sex to mean either male or female and not gender, which is a social construct. They're trying to give room for, give room for homosexuals, transgenders, and all of those things. Now, so to the key provision of the SAMOA Agreement, it contains several provisions that directly addresses human rights and non-discrimination, which are particularly relevant to the discussion of LGBTQ rights in Nigeria for an inclusive and economic sustainable development. Yeah, the key, it has 6 key priorities. We have human rights promotion, democracy and governance. We have peace and security. We have gender equality and empowerment. We have environmental and climate sustainability. We also have migration and mobility, then inclusive and sustainable economic development. Because of our time, I'll just pick 1 or 2. So we have human rights promotion and protection. This agreement mandates that parties contribute to the protection, promotion, and fulfillment of human rights, in compliance with international law, including encouraging the universal ratification and implementation of human rights. It also calls for adoption of comprehensive equality and anti-discriminational laws. All of this is to ensure that everyone enjoys equal rights and protection, regardless of who you are. Also including the non-discrimination principle of, covering various grounds, including your sexual orientation. This is where the LGBTQ comes in the other time that I was trying to highlight. The principle of non-discrimination. I think it's one of the things they are agitating for, the sex orientation should be by choice and that. So this provision aims to ensure equality and prohibit any form of discrimination, creating a more inclusive and equitable society. Then I'll go to gender equality and empowerment. Sorry, that's our time. Okay. We all know what gender equality means. And then this agreement commits to advance gender equality and the full enjoyment of human rights by women and girls. It includes measures to combat GBV and discrimination. It also promotes the rights of persons, the minorities. It promotes the rights of the minorities, the indigenous people, the marginalized community, and reinforcing, including the PWDs, reinforcing their inclusion and participation in the society. This SAMOA agreement, though the bill is still ongoing, and then so let's move into prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse. So what is PC? According to UNICEF, PC stands for protection. Most times we use prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse. I think there is a course on UNICEF on that I will employ every organization to take, and then every members of each of the organizations should be certified. Is it using the Agora UNICEF online course? So it refers to the measures and practices aimed at preventing and addressing instances where individuals, especially vulnerable populations, are exploited or abused by those in positions of power or authority. Sexual abuse and sexual exploitation is actually one of the root causes of GBV. And then I do say that GBV is an abuse of power. It's basically an abuse of power. So see now in this context, it refers to an abuse of power over the other gender, especially the vulnerable populations, because you have because of your authority, because of your position, you think you can have your way and no one checks you for it. So including such as aid workers or other personnel associated with humanitarian and development activities. The most difficult thing in this situation is that most humanitarians are actually the ones exploiting and abusing girls. Okay, something happened to me very recently, and so I'm not supposed to. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but it's just like as for an example. Now, I was supposed to receive something from someone in this developmental space, and I actually planned around that thing because it has been sorted initially. Now getting to the delivery point, this the person to deliver this particular item told me to come into the hotel room to pick it. I'm like, what is that for? You can actually deliver this to me in the public space. Why must I follow you to the hotel room to call? I just declined the offer, and that was it. So all of these things, most of the activists are also at the forefront of sexual exploitation and abuse. Now, so what is the importance of PSEA? Now, according to UNICEF, the importance of PSEA is much. We have protecting vulnerable individuals, including children and survivors of crises from exploitation and abuse by those in positions of authority or power. Another importance is to maintain trust and integrity. If the policy of C is in place in an organization, you can be rest assured that at whatever point your staffs are in safe hands. And maybe if especially those that are dealing with survivors, you will be rest assured that your survivors, your staffs are in safe hands. So that's another importance, maintaining trust and integrity. It helps to maintain the trust of the community served and uphold the integrity of the organization by ensuring that personnel adhere strictly to the ethical standards against sexual exploitation and abuse. Another thing is compliance with standards. Implementing a robust PSEA practices ensures compliance with international standards and commitments, promoting accountability and legal adherence. Another thing, as I said, I think I said this earlier, creating a safe environment. When you have trust and integrity in place, you have a safe space. Now, creating a safe environment, PSEA contributes to creating a safer and more respectful environment for both beneficiaries, staffs, survivors, and any other person that come across the organization, ensuring that all individuals can engage in activities without fear of exploitation or abuse. That is actually a critical one in maintaining trust and integrity. And lastly, it also promotes accountability. PSEA practices involve clear reporting mechanisms and response systems that hold individuals accountable for misconduct, thereby deterring potential abusers. So, to the intersectionality approach to PSEA, it recognizes that individuals experience vulnerabilities differently based on multiple intersecting factors such as gender, age, disability, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and other aspects of identity. And then this intersectional approach involves understanding multiple layers of vulnerability. This acknowledges the people may face compounded risks based on intersecting identities, such as women with disabilities or the minority groups or the marginalized communities. So understanding multiple layers of vulnerability and then also helps to tailor protection measures to address the specific needs. Another approach is inclusive policy design. Our policies and practices that develop with consideration for diverse experiences and needs, ensuring that they are effective for all groups, including those who may be marginalized or overlooked, especially at the grassroots level. Another thing is addressing structural inequities, tailoring response mechanisms, and then empowerment for the survivors or the affected. So let's quickly go to the strategies for effective implementation of PSEA. The very first one here is community engagement. Community engagement is key. Community engagement is key. We cannot shy away from community engagement. Another one is capacity building, training, and awareness. How often do we do PSEA in our organization? How often are they aware of what PSEA is all about? So we need to continue. It's supposed to be a continuous capacity building, training, and awareness. So as we are training the community, the public, our organization must not be left out of the training. All right, then inclusive reporting mechanism and safe space. Then we also have survivor-centered approaches. This is key because there are lots of persons that are exploited, that are abused, and they don't know they can actually speak out. They don't know they're supposed to, they don't know what they're supposed to. So if there are tailored survival approaches, it will also go a long way. We also have monitoring and evaluation. We have the key indicators, such as we have the key indicators and feedback mechanism. For the key indicators, we need, number one is how many SEA incidents were reported, how many training did we conduct, how many training have we conducted, like just training participation, policy compliance, investigation timelines, and survivor support. I'm stressing it on survivor support. Then we also have feedback mechanisms. Number one, regular surveys for the staffs, for partners and beneficiary of feedback or PSEA efforts. Another feedback mechanisms would be for focus groups, in-depth discussions with stakeholders on PSEA implementation. Then we can also have complaint boxes, channels for C concerns. Then we can have an hotline and a toll-free line, and then we should conduct those. Now, basically, what are the challenges that we'll face on PSEA? Number one is the community resistance to change. Some people believe it's a norm. It's a normal thing. So, okay, because of our time. Now, another thing is lack of resources, cultural and language barriers. We have the fear of retaliation, especially from the victim, from the survivors. There are limited access to services. Not all services, but not all survivors actually know they have access to some survival. Limited access to services. We have power imbalances. We have economic violence in such a way that the survivor, let me say the victim, is at the mercy of the abuser. So he or she is not, or let me say he or she or whoever the survivor is does not have a say, because he or she is under the mercy of the abuser. Then limited knowledge and lack of research and data. So what are the solutions to all of this? Number one is research and data collection. In my organization last year, we conducted a research on sexual and gender-based violence in a particular community, and we discovered that we have 19 over 20 women that are being violated and abused. So we need research and data collection. All of this will help us to tailor our intervention and activities. Number two is advocacy and awareness campaigns. We have collaboration and partnership with stakeholders. Then we have confidential reporting, which is essential and key. Then we should strengthen our support services. And then there should be zero tolerance, holding perpetrators accountable, regardless of their position or power. And then sustainable economic development. That is an intervention that empowers survivors. And lastly, we have capacity building and training. I said it earlier that capacity building should not be one-off. We should be continuous. So in conclusion, the importance of addressing the intersectionality in the SAMOA Bill and tailoring the PSEA approaches to meet cross-cutting needs, and most importantly, an effective PSEA implementation requires a comprehensive approach, including policies, training, reporting mechanisms, and accountability. And then by addressing challenges and implementing solutions, every organization can prevent sexual exploitation and abuse to protect vulnerable populations and maintain trust and integrity. Now, my question to everybody on this call this evening is this: what will you do differently? As an organization, what will you do differently? What will you do differently? It's time for us to act now. Prioritize PSEA to protect everyone and ensure safety and integrity in all interventions. We should encourage continued efforts and strengthen groups, and then adapt an intersectional approach in your policies and practice. Thank you so much, everyone, for this for this wonderful time to be together. Please, I want to ask you once again, what will you do differently? We've been doing this all over and all over again. This time around, we need to re-strategize and do something differently from what we've been doing before. Thank you, everyone, for having me.
Thank you, Jumoke. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. You finished in record time. Thank you so much. I know my participants have had a field day today. In fact, I can't just appreciate each and every one of you. I want to sincerely apologize for the network. I know it has been really a difficult thing for most participants. Guess what? We actually had over 300 people register for this conference. And network is really, really dealing with us today. But I still over 70 people who are still online, fighting so hard to come online to hear. But before we conclude, please, I want our professor, she was supposed to come on to give us our opening remark, our chair governing council. I don't know whether she's online. Is she online? Is there? And then if I'm waiting for her, if we have anybody that wishes to give us a goodwill message, you have the floor now. You have the floor now. Before we go to our Q&As quickly. In the next 2 minutes, can we run that? Please, could we have Professor Josephine Olumana? Is Mama online to talk to us? Is anyone wishes to give us a goodwill message as it pertains to this pre-conference and our AGM ongoing now, starting from today?
Good evening.
Any organization? Yes. Good evening, sir.
I'm Reverend Father Michael Oko calling. I'm speaking from Abuja.
Well, welcome, Father. I appreciate
Thank you. I just want to extend my appreciation to all the crew members. It has been an eye-opening and a very educative section so far. And we believe that with all we've learned from the first speaker to the second, third, and the fourth one, we'll be able to work with some of the points and make Nigeria and the society at large a better place. I want to wish the organization a very successful outing also tomorrow. And thank you all the participants for being there. Despite the challenges, we've all tried to make it here. So it's a laudable project. I want to say keep it up and may God bless you, bless your efforts, and bless all of us to make the society a better place, especially for the women and the less privileged. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. We appreciate you for joining us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is anyone again talking to us? Any goodwill messages?
Good evening, everyone, and good evening to my leaders. I'm so happy to participate in this program. I was having issue of network, and I was able to leave my environment to another place entirely for me to be able to join. And I've learned a lot. And I want to say thank you to all the participants, and then for the organization that put this up, and for fighting for survivors. I'm speaking on behalf of survivors, and it's one of the happiest things in my life that people are waking up, organizations are waking up to fight for us. So before, we don't need to have our voice, but now organizations are giving us opportunity. And I want to say, please keep it up. For other organizations that are yet to work with survivors, please go ahead. Look for a way to bring them out of whatever challenges they are going through. And I want to say, God bless all the speakers and all the participants, including those who sat down to come up with this program. Thank you so much. God bless everybody.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Ma. We appreciate you. Thank you. Any more so that we continue for our Q&A?
Yes. Yes.
All right, the last speaker. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Yes, my name is Simon Difekemonde. I really appreciate this opportunity that has been given to me to participate in this program. indeed, this program was very comprehensive enough, although the network was not friendly for me to be able to join at the first starting. But from where I started from the middle of the first speaker, I think the conversation was very comprehensive enough and it has been so educating. So I really want to appreciate all the coordinators of this program for the opportunity to be able to enlighten us more about this. Because some of those things I'm hearing today were things that I did not know about, which going to cascade this to the organization, it will really go a long way to reduce the rate of the issues of we have been facing in our community. So I want to say a very big thank you to you all for organizing this program. I say may the good God have you blessed in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Right about now, we are going straight to the AI Q&A. And my moderator and my timekeeper, none other than Mr. Daniel, will be seeing us through the Q&A session. So, Mr. Daniel, can we start off with the Q&A and discussions? Thank you. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks to all our speakers and thanks to all the participants who have been patient enough to be with us up to this point. Yes, regarding the attendance, we're taking attendance as we speak, and the slides too will be shared both to our email and to the platform, and the recording too will be shared. There are a couple of questions here in the group, very, very interesting ones too, I must say. So Dr. Efe, the first question is directed to you. It says, what can we do in a case where the perpetrator of C was not recorded anywhere and is his word against the victim's word? What can we do in that kind of scenario?
In a case where perpetrator's word against the victim, well, number one, you could start with supporting the victim. It is crucial to provide support and care to the victim so that they know that you believe them. They definitely need access to counseling, medical service, or other forms of support, to help them cope with the trauma they have just experienced. Secondly, you can encourage reporting. You encourage the victim to step forward to report the incident to the appropriate authorities or organization, that handles cases of sexual exploitation and abuse, even without concrete evidence. You can report the incident, or reporting this incident can still lead to an investigation and potential action against the perpetrator. Then thirdly, it can be investigated thoroughly, conduct a thorough investigation into the allegation, even if there's no concrete evidence. Initially, interview witnesses, gather any available evidence or whatever the person has been through, and explore any possible leads, of course, that could support the victim's claims. Then document any evidence. The first thing a lawyer will tell you, we lawyers were very particular about it, the courts do not manufacture evidence. So it's important, no matter how minute or tiny or insignificant you think that evidence is, if there's any form of evidence, no matter how small, it should be documented and preserved. The key word here is preservation. This could include text messages, for example, emails, or any form of communication that may support the victim's allegation, Then of course you could consider other forms of evidence in cases where there's no direct evidence. There's circumstantial evidence, for example. This could include patterns of behavior, previous complaints against the perpetrator, or any other relevant information that may support the victim's allegation. Seek legal advice. That's another thing you can do. You consult with legal experts or organizations that specialize in cases of sexual exploitation and abuse. This network is one of them, so they can be reached, and they will direct you to, other organizations closer to you, in terms of physical space that could be of help to you. And these people, they can provide guidance on the best course of action, to take, including potential legal remedies that may be available to you. And of course, the advocate, I talked about HR here. So in handling that in a company, there's also, of course, the inadequate in addressing cases where there's no concrete evidence. Advocate for policy changes at the organizational or even at the government level. It doesn't matter where or who. This could involve implementing better, reporting mechanisms, and improving investigation procedures, or providing, of course, better support for victims in cases where there's little to no evidence against a perpetrator of sexual exploitation and abuse. It is very important to take the allegations seriously. Please don't assume they made it up, and support the victim. Through this process I have described above, and to seek justice and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was amazing. So another person asks and is worried that most perpetrators walk free, and is asking if there are laws that empowers the support providers to report these cases.
Okay. There are several laws in Nigeria. One, the Child Rights Act of 2003, yeah. It mandates reporting of child abuse cases to the appropriate authority. There's also the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015, which a lot of us are quite familiar with. It requires reporting of incidents of violence, and including sexual abuse, to the police or other relevant authorities. So yes, you can report. The Nigerian Police Force, I think, yeah, they have a gender unit. I don't know how many of us are aware of that the Nigerian Police Force has a gender unit, and it has a mandate to receive and investigate these reports of gender-based violence, including sexual abuse. In fact, in Lagos State, they've even been given an entire building for that. Before they just had one very tiny space in an office where they even posted pictures of perpetrators that have been convicted. But now they have an entire building to themselves to tell you how serious the government is taking it. There's also the National Human Rights Commission, which receives and investigates complaints of human rights violation, including abuse cases. And we all know that it's all over. In every state, the National Human Rights Commission exists. And for Lagos State, where I'm domiciled, of course, we have the Lagos State Domestic and Violence Law of 2007, which mandates reporting of domestic violence cases to the authorities. So there are also professional bodies, yeah, like the Nigerian Medical Association. I'm aware of that because I remember speaking with one of their officers, and she was telling me in detail what the Nigerian Medical Association had put in place. Then, of course, I'll talk about the Bar Association. The Nigerian Bar Association has guidelines and codes of conduct that require their members to report incidents of abuse, and many organizations and associations of such. So it's just to find out which one is relevant. But if not, there are many laws, like I have quoted just a few of this, that is very detailed. They give you an opportunity to report. You don't even need to seek the consent of the abused, because sometimes where the person is having dealings with a narcissistic person, a person has been manipulated, and emotionally they are entangled with that person and all of that. So yes, a lot of these cases can be investigated, and it is also available. Thank you. I hope this helps.
Yeah, it does help a lot, and you bring so much insight, and I want to say thank you. I'm going to come back to you just in a few moments. Right now, I want to direct the next question to Ms. Omisore, because you actually touched on a bit of it during your presentation. And the question is, how can one get access to capacity building training on PC as an organization? I think you touched on that a bit. If you could just expand that for us the more.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. I said it during the course of the presentation that there are online courses that one can apply for. There are online courses that we can search for. There are other organizations. So I think In fact, the social media algorithm has made it simple for you. If you type in the search bar once, it will keep bringing ads that entails whatever you have searched for. So if you need more capacity building on PC, please search online. There are multi courses you can take online that can be, and then there are certificate courses that can also improve our capacity. And then I would also no, this is an annual event. I would also love to let's say crave our indulgence that the association should keep this. Although I think we have a biannual training too, tailored to specific topics. But I think for more capacity building on PC, we can search online. There are lots of online, check Coursera, check. In fact, UNICEF, as we speak, I said that during my presentation that UNICEF currently has an online certificate course on PC. Then other tools, you can actually read online, get enough books and online courses. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'm still on you, Mr. Omisore. While you were speaking, you did mention about data collection and research, and someone wants to know the tools that can be used for data collection, and if you could share some of those tools.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. One of the tools that we can use for data collection, we can use focus group discussion. Like I said the other time that we did a research on sexual and gender-based violence in a particular community, and we were able to deduce. It was from a focus group discussion. So there are lots of methods for data collection. We can use a questionnaire. We can use this. There are online apps that we can also use. There are we have ODK, we have Kobo Collect, and then which other one do we have? So it depends on what works for your organization. So we can actually use focus group discussion. You can just be a random conversation with some sets of people to get their knowledge, their view, and then to get the what's it called out to get the accurate what's it called how do I put that to actually know the kind of violence they are passing through, so that we can actually know how to tailor our interventions towards them. So we can have a focus group discussion. We can have the online data collection tools like ODK, Collect, and then interviews too. We can also engage interview to collect data. The random questions from random persons just to know what they understand about the topic involved. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the insights you bring. Emanuela, I'll just get to you shortly. The question is this: how do we get organizations who are providing support to PC victims to adopt technology within their process? How do we get them to do that? Because traditionally, we see that they are so engrossed with the traditional method of doing things, and adoption of technology sometimes becomes challenging. So how do we really get these organizations to adopt technology within the process of their operation? Emanuela.
Thank you. So we are in an information age, and then dealing with human beings, we should have it at the back of our minds that dealing with human beings, and if we want to have make them to move towards a direction, whatever information you're going to give to them, like, okay, we're going to talk on technology and the fact that the need for technological use in their offices and spaces, it needs to be consistent. You need to be consistent in your messaging. You need to be consistent with how you pass a message. I remember then when technology was just coming up, some of our government workers, they found it hard, to even go online. But with consistency, the fact that over the years, we have been consistent, like, okay, look, it makes work easier. We show them the advantages of the use of technology, being consistent with that messaging. Now we see government workers using technology. You go to NECO office, they're telling you, please go back to the website and do this. You go to this office, they tell you, please go back to the website. And you see, okay, it's now a consistent thing because of the fact that over the years, the message around technology has been a consistent thing. So if we bring it down to the workspace, our workplaces, our message around the use of technology should be consistent. Okay, we need to put things in files. We need to, we have meetings and we're always talking about it. Someone comes into your office and the first thing you're doing is paperwork. The moment the head, the HR unit, the head, the administrative unit, the moment they cascade the aspect of consistency, everyone carries along. It's not going to be a magical experience. It's going to be it's not going to be a one-off thing. It's going to be a time thing. Over time, people will join the bandwagon. People will say, okay, fine. As an organization, we should not be holding on to a cake modus operandi. We started this program and then I was surprised that we were going to sing the national anthem. And somehow we did it. I was expecting some other ways, but somehow we did it. So over time, with consistent messaging of use of technology within our spaces, everyone will pick up. We're dealing with human beings, so everyone will pick up. Our grandfathers now are on TikTok. Our uncles are on TikTok. How did it happen? But when youths were doing it, what is this? What is this? But look at what is happening. Everyone is going to TikTok. Everyone's going on Facebook. So how much more the organizations? So that's just it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Dr. Efe, I'm back to you again. There's a two-part question here. Someone is asking if they can get a sample of a PC policy just to have an idea of what it entails and what it looks like. And then how can these policies be implemented within the hospital setting?
Well, if you want to get a sample, I think the easiest and quickest way for you to do that is to go online, use a Google search, and look for a sample of a PC and domesticate it. Other than that, you will have to bring in a trainer who would help to train you, and then put down something of a structure based on your policies and your work ethics, because it's very important that it is properly domesticated so you can apply to your own organization specifically. So those are two ways you can go about it. You either go online, put in the search engine PC policy document, and something pops up for you, and then you look at it, you domesticate it, or you invite the experts to come and speak. It becomes a two-way thing. They come speak with your management staff, depending on the level of everyone, because everyone needs that training. And then you now request them to help to document, to put together a document, policy document for your organization. So it's going to be one of those two. But I think the cheapest for you will be going online. That will be the cheapest way.
So this
and
next
then you
question,
can
I'll just
consult
leave it
with
open.
some of our people here. I know that Dr. Harris is here, Dr. Onyi is here. They could direct, on who you could speak with. I do some level of pro bono to a extent. I use the word to a certain extent. It's not totally free, no, but to a certain extent, yes, I could give guidance, and that will be free, at least for the association, since Dr. Onyi and Dr. Eris keep pulling me in. So yes, that can
Thank
work.
you so much.
Wonderful. One more question. So I'm going to leave it open to any of the speakers.
Okay. 1 minute, wrap up.
Okay. So a participant is concerned about sexual harassment, exploitation, and abuse in schools. I would like to know what measures can be put in place to actually stop this in primary, secondary, or tertiary institutions. The floor is open to any of the speakers, please.
Okay, may I say something on this?
Yes,
please.
please.
All right. I don't know how many of us are aware that there is a policy document on the national policy on safety, security, and violence-free schools. Are we aware of this?
No.
Ah, okay. What I'll do for you people is I'll try and get a hold of that document. It will be the soft copy so that you can get it, because that is the starting point. It's important to look through the policy book so that you know where to start. It has a lot of amazing things on schools. And I don't know if, okay, this training is once a year, unfortunately, because I do have one of our top advisors in my organization, the Wireless Foundation, is currently a police commissioner. And that is the area we work on in schools. So I don't want to go into it because I know if I do that, it will be like hijacking these proceedings. So that would be wrong. So that's why I'm not going into details about it. I'll just point you in the direction of the policy, So I'm going to try and get a hold of it. And then once I do that, then I think I should be able to send a copy to you guys, so that you can, so you can share it to all of you, because we all need a copy of it for our kids, our nephews, our nieces, our wards, and all that. Everybody needs a copy of that policy.
This Zoom will be shared on our YouTube. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so we're going to do that.
Participants, this recording will also be shared on our association YouTube. So you will hear and listen again. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. We're done with our Q&A. Let's quickly wrap up. And to close for the day, I would like to call on our national chairperson, none other than our indefatigable Ambassador Dr. Aries Joe Ibi. She was on transit scene. Thank God for mercy. I'm now. I hope the network.
I'm still with you, ma.
Thank you.
Thank
yes,
you.
we are waiting for you, ma.
Thank you so
Safe
much.
travels. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to Owerri. I'm already in Owerri because we are starting the activities tomorrow. Thank you. So I want to really thank everyone, Dr. Efe. I'm really grateful. Dr. Stephen, really grateful. Dr. Efe, Barrister Efe, very grateful. Our indefatigable Emanuela, thank you so much. And our sister Olajumoke, thank you so much. And then my own Dr. Onyi Owa, thank you. And Daniel, thank you for handling the question and answer session. So I want to say a big thank you to every one of us, all the facilitators and all the participants. And I'm sure we have really benefited. I've been having some chats. They want to join the association. They want to join the association. Association is open for every one of us. Just what we do in our own community, we just do coordination. Coordination counts, and that's what we are doing with UN Women presently. So I want to appreciate every one of us. I want to encourage us that, like Omisore asked us, what are we going to do differently after this training? We'll be doing these things, we'll be doing these things. For me, as an organization, as Working Finger, I see Dr. Efe telling us about getting policy documents and begin to use them, begin to implement them, begin to advocate with them in our own communities. So for me, that's my own take home as an organization, Working Fingers International. So for you as an organization, what are you going to do differently going forward after this training? So that's a very beautiful question that Omisore puts to us. and we have to really take action so that when we meet again, we will review what we have been doing and we evaluate our impacts in our communities. So Dr. Onyi, I'm really grateful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, our facilitators. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Prof
Thank you,
sends
ma'am.
her apologies because she
Thank
too
you,
was
ma'am.
on transit. So she said I should send her apology. Tomorrow she will be with us. Thank
Yes,
you.
just told me. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Dear participants, we're wrapped up for today. Thank you for staying on with us. Tomorrow is another day, same time, 4 p.m. The slides will be shared so that you go through, because by tomorrow we have an evaluation test, and when you pass your 50%, you get your certificate on the 30th of July sent to your email. Thank you so much.